Today, Change Guyana is addressing the problem of blackouts and the state of GPL, which is a state-owned entity. All over the years, we have had the same experience that we have had today, where you have frequent blackouts. I was greeted by blackouts this morning when I woke up, it came back, and then when I left home at around 10, the blackout came on again. But it seemed to be a perennial problem in our experience, daily experiences. And it's something that is very problematic for the people of Guyana. Over the years, progressively, we've seen that there's no solution in sight. So many restructuring has been done with no effect on the reliability and cost of electricity. The political influence over GPL continues. So today, Change Guyana is addressing the problem of blackouts. Now, as you know, GPL is a state-owned entity, is the sole provider of electricity in Guyana, except for those large companies that self-generate. It has a total capacity of 42 megawatts, of which 16 megawatts is unreliable because of age, over 30 years old. Peak demand is 120 megawatt, which means there's virtually no reserve at all in case of maintenance. And that's the reason why you see the frequent blackouts. You would recall the same problem we've had on the Essequibo Coast and East Berbice and Bartica about 3 years ago. And it was the same reason, the very reason, the shortage of generation. Those units then were 33 years old, just about the time when I took the job of when I took the chairmanship of GPL. And then we bought new units for all those areas. And you would know that there's very little or no blackouts in those areas, in Bartica, East and Regina. The problems with GPL are many. The transmission and distribution system, the grid, is very old. The lack of redundancy lines in the transmission and distribution network, poor maintenance. The national demand exceeds supply. Some 60 megawatt of electricity self-generated by companies like DDL, Banks, DIH, and the rest. The unreliable supply caused daily blackouts, daily prolonged blackouts. Technical and commercial losses exceeds just around 27%. Electricity rates are among the highest in the region. The urgency. Electricity affects all aspects of life and human endeavor. It is a basic necessity. Successive administrations have failed to address the problems of unreliable supply of electricity. Investments in generation capacity often lag behind the need for renewal. For example, when I assumed the post of chairman of the board in March 2016, the generators are at Anna Regina, Bartica, and Canefield were over 30 years old, which means that since 1992, these areas were seriously neglected. New generations needs 18 months planning and completion time, so you can't go and buy or extend generation facility unless you plan 18 months in advance. No comprehensive plan to date to renew the transmission lines, which are still 69 kV instead of higher voltage lines such as 138, resulting in high transmission losses. Inefficient procurement policies exacerbate the problems leading to higher costs. Poor decisions, for example, out of the 26 megawatt at Reed and Hope, every day 14 megawatt has to be channeled back to Kingston using a submarine cable. And you would recall that cable would be damaged from experience virtually every year. And to repair that cable is nothing less than close to $1 million US. So why put generation across the river and then you have to channel it over the riverbed to Kingston? Other problems includes reliance on heavy fuel with its environmental problems over gas or LNG. We continue with heavy fuel. The problem of disposal of waste. GPL has about over 1 million gallons in tanks. Don't know what to do with it. GPL rolling a loss close to $4 billion per annum, necessitating government bailouts or subsidies. Before I move forward, I'd like to put on record my 2-year stint at GPL when I was appointed its chairman in March of 2016. The board's mandate, as all boards, was to set policies, targets, monitor performance. It wasn't anything operational. My accomplishments during that period includes, in 2 years, I've added $7 billion to GPL's cash flows, even as oil prices increased by more than 40% during that period. Never in the history of GPL. Within 3 months of my appointment, I announced a 20% reduction in electricity rates. I approved 3 new 1.7 megawatt units for Anna Regina, 3 new 1 megawatt units for Bartica, and 1 5 megawatt unit for Canefield East Berbice to replace units that were 30 years old. These investments removed blackouts in those areas. A tender was advertised for a 50 megawatt replacement of the units at Garden of Eden based on LNG to replace units that were then 24 years old. After my resignation, this plan was shelved, and now the effects of shortage of generation, you can see it every day. Where had those investments gone through, the management contracted that 50 megawatt, they would have been commissioned now, and we would have had a big reserve, and the blackouts we're experiencing today, you would not have been experiencing that. I also prepare a strategic plan for GPL, which I submitted to the sector minister. I received no response then. That was just about time I was leaving. I'm not an engineer, but I directed trial improvements to the grid by installing insulated cables, automatic fault detection systems, auto reclosures to detect faults and inform correction and maintenance. The trials were successful, but further investments to install these improvements network-wide never continued. It shows that the design of the grid was faulty in many areas. I give my service honorably and without remuneration. The way forward. Change Guyana will implement the following to restructure the operations of GPL to finally remove blackouts and make electricity more affordable. A phased privatization of generating assets, generation of electricity to the private sector to be private sector managed and owned, and electricity supplied to GPL under a power purchase agreements. I must say, in our sister countries like Trinidad and elsewhere, this is the model that they have used, that the generation be handled privately by private power companies, and the grid buy that power. What that would do is that it will free GPL of huge investments in generating assets and allow GPL to have the cash flow to modernize the grid. All investments in new generation to be fueled by LNG or gas that is most cost-effective and environmentally friendly. GPL to use its resources to build a modernized smart grid to ensure reliability, better management, and control of technical and commercial losses. And I might stop to address losses. I mean, the current losses is around 27%. When I was at GPL, when I took over, it was 30%, and I reduced it to 27%. It's currently at 27%. The implication of losses is that every unit of power that you generate, 27% of that is lost by transmission, through generation, through commercial activity like theft and other activity in the commercial area. So losses, control of losses are very important. For every percentage reduction in losses, I don't have the figures, but it could be close to
300 million.
About 300 million, like 1.5 million US dollars per month. Every percentage of loss that is reduced. Recapitalization of GPL's financial structure by the government, taking over all loans and improving GPL's credit rating and borrowing capacity. Right now, GPL has no borrowing capacity. Instead of loan repayments, governments will receive dividend. Divesting 49% of GPL's ownership to a strategic investor with a proven track record of successes in restructuring and managing power companies. This would inject private sector level of efficiency and productivity, resulting in lower costs and reliability, and remove reliance on the state for annual bailouts. Diversify the energy mix by facilitating private sector investments in solar, wind, and hydroelectric projects under a PPA arrangement. Sale of prime properties with dilapidated buildings around the city to finance a corporate office on a sprawling property at Sophia. As regards Amalia Falls project, we believe that there are more viable options given its location, hydrology data, and costs. Are these possible? I mean, these are measures that we would implement to arrest this situation of blackouts. By all means, I know no other country I've traveled to where power outages are an issue. Never. I mean, look at Trinidad, look at Little Grenada. I mean, you don't find blackouts. I mean, it's not rocket science. In fact, I've met many Guyanese who manage successful power companies abroad. Since commissioning of the new units at Anna Regina and Bartica, there has been little or no blackouts whatsoever. And that was under my tenure. All that is needed is better leadership, strong oversight, and the ability to think strategically. Successive administrations must take responsibility for the current state of GPL and blackouts. Had the 50 megawatt I had approved for Garden of Eden had been contracted, those units would have been commissioned today, and we would have sufficient reserve and more reliable power. But after 54 years of independence, we are still to deal with a basic necessity, that of reliable power. I'm totally convinced that if you don't understand a problem, you can't fix it. You can't fix the problem. This is a failure of leadership we have to contend with, even at the start of a new decade in the 21st century. How longer must we wake up to blackouts and being greeted by blackouts when we arrive home after a long day? How much longer must our kids wait to do their homework because of blackouts in the evening? How much longer must a business or factory be closed to wait until electricity is restored? Look at our roads, drainage, and garbage in the city, the crime, the unemployment, the depressed communities all across our country. Our per capita income of quarter that of Antigua and Little St. Kitts. The people of our beloved country must make a clear choice to address the failure of leadership at the highest level. The time, ladies and gentlemen, is now. Thank you. I would say, like, looking at the experiences of other countries, like in Trinidad, the losses are probably about around 5%. Looking at Jamaica, probably 12–15%. When you look at Barbados and so at 15% or 12%, I would project that we'll reduce those losses to that level. And if we reduce loss by, let's say, 12%, you know, I have to do the mathematics, but that would be a significant, if the cost now is, let's say, 26 cents, and we reduce the losses by 12%, right? And you sell that at the same price, you know, I mean, that's significant reduction in the price per kilowatt. Now, we had projected that when we give that 20% rebate in early 2016, 3 months after I took over, we had projected that we won't need to remove that rebate up to the point of $70 a barrel for oil, right? But our prices are right now $53 a barrel for oil in the international market. So you can see the effects, but the main point of your question is, I can't see price per kilowatt being more than 18 cents. We implement a lot of AMI meters, which communicate with Central, which has communication ability. So expanding that effort will isolate areas. For example, if somebody is consuming 30 kilowatt per month and you see suddenly 0 or 10 kilowatt, those are measures you can use to detect the problems there. And then your investigation team will follow up on that.
The level of blackouts that occurred during the period, without focusing on some of the improvements that were made, whether it's the generating plants in Canefield, Bartica, and Anna Regina. But the fact is, for the last 45 years, we've been plagued by blackouts. There have been some incremental improvements here and there. So what is needed really is a fundamental change, a change that addresses the whole structure of how we provide electricity. And I think one of the key solutions that Robert pointed out is putting the generating power in the hands of local business. And a good case in point to show how it is effective right here in Guyana is in Kokwani and Linden, where the Kokwani Utilities Power Corporation, they buy their power from Linden Electricity Corporation, which gets it from both sides. And similarly, Rusal sells their power to, well, it would be Kokwani in their area for distribution. And their power supply is reliable. we had Raul Lucas, the chairman of, currently chairman of GPL, saying that over the last 3 months we were averaging 8 blackouts per day. I mean, it has never been as bad as this during Robert's tenure. But we have a widespread endemic problem, and we need to change the whole, it's like we have to embrace capitalism to deal with GPL. We have to put the means of production in the hands of the private investors. And I think that will address the losses issue, address the unreliable supply of power, and the other plagues that we've encountered, whether it's the cost, the whole inefficiency of the system. We have the World Bank report that deals with getting electricity in Guyana, the procedure, the time, the cost, the unreliability. You can go on and on. We are ranked, well, second to last after Venezuela for the upper middle income countries. And I think it's about 130. That's second to last for upper middle income countries in terms of getting electricity. And out of 170 countries, we are at about I think it's 170.
We're 54 out of 55.
Yeah, 54 out of 55 for the upper developed countries, but overall, out of the 190 countries, we were at 170, the bottom 11%. These are not statistics that relate to 2016 to 2018. You can go back multiple years, 4 decades, and you'll find that Guyana is in that range where we have underperformed our neighbors, whether it's Suriname, Barbados, Trinidad, Antigua. So we need a radical change.
Every week we're doing a press conference on issues that are topical to this nation, and we just thought that GPL is a fundamental one because every aspect of life depends on electricity. To charge your phone, to go onto the World Wide Web, to listen to news, to do homework, to do a business, everything. Electricity is the foundation of it. And if you don't have electricity, then you can't do anything. A country can't do anything. And the World Bank report and all these publications will show you, will have that as a criteria in assessing the ease of doing business in a country. And electricity is one of them. No doubt we're contesting the elections nationally, but GPL came up mainly because it's a fundamental issue without which you cannot enjoy life at all.
Yes.